right, earth, my body, fire, air, water, all of these elements are not just material realities. These are the divine expressions of life itself as the Holy Blessed One, which are cute ideas, right? They're fun things to think about. Like, oh, the manifest reality is the life of God. But when we really get into the nitty-gritty of our aliveness and the divinity that is inherently bestowed upon us through our aliveness, this becomes a different thing in our spiritual lives. When we really begin to tend to the sacred in our lives, we often will separate, right? My body, my spirituality, spirit, flesh, right? So I want to share with you from the book, The Original Goodness, which is based on the maybe different idea than original sin, that we are actually born of original goodness, which you can find as a perennial teaching throughout all the faith traditions and all the indigenous teachings, right? An incarnational idea. But I want to share from one of the Greek leaders of the early Christian church in the early 3rd century. So for my Bible scholar geeks or my Christian history geeks, this is before the Nicene Creed. This is before the Romans colonized this teaching, okay? So just know that part. So his name was Origen, and he talked about the core of goodness as both a spark and a divine seed. A seed that is sown deep in consciousness by the very fact of our being human, made in the image of Creator. He goes on to explain that even though this seed is covered up, it has been God that has sowed the seed in us, pressed it in, begotten it. It cannot be extricated or die out. It glows and sparkles, burning and giving light, and always it moves upwards towards God. And then Meister Eckhart, who was a Catholic theologian in the 14th century, took the teaching of this Greek leader from the early church and expanded on it. And he sees the metaphor, and he took it to its full limits in the teaching in the 14th century and said, the seed of God is in us. Given an intelligent and hardworking farmer, it will thrive and grow up to God, whose seed it is. And accordingly, its fruits will be God nature. Pear seeds grow pear trees, nut seeds, nut trees, and God seed, God. And the reason I want to share this very particular Christian idea of the divine within. Meister Eckhart went on to teach about this uncreated spark, the uncreated seed, which means it has always been, was never made, and can't be unmade. And that this seed and that this spark has always been taught as how you are divine because you are human. The colonized version of this teaching took that little piece out. And it's important that we understand that. Not because it's important to have the knowledge, but it's important to understand that there has been a systemic campaign for you to deny and turn away from the physical form of your goodness. There has been this separation between the sacred and the flesh, right? The puritanical ideas of the flesh as evil. The flesh is bad. And it's been on purpose. It's been on purpose because it separates us from our own goodness. It separates us from our power from the spark, from this uncreated light that literally lives in us, and we have access to in one way and in one place. Where do we have access to the spark of the divine? In our bodies, which is where it lives. And so this idea of tending the body, caring for the body, manifesting more health and well-being is a spiritual act. It is a sacred undertaking if we choose to bring our divinity to it. If we choose to believe faithfully that we can discover and feel the divine in our own beings. So this is the work of the tending. I was thinking about all of us who go to the gym or go to exercise classes or Pilates or dance class or whatever we do for our physicality. But what happens when we take the divinity with us? Right? What if we didn't leave the divine outside when we walked into the gym or we walked into that yoga class or the Pilates or whatever you're doing? Like, what if we were in these activities not to fix, but to celebrate the aliveness, to celebrate the opportunity to feel this spark of the divine, to spend time with it? That when we have this opportunity to be in our bodies, whether we're dancing it out or we're lifting weights or we're going for a run or we're walking in nature, that we have an opportunity to be present to the experience of our aliveness. And because we do, we tend the growing of the seed. We tend the soil of our lives that wants to always reach towards the divine. Right? The seed that well tended, when we are good farmers, and you guys know I love a garden metaphor. When we are good farmers, we will but be sure to grow the seed into its fullest expression. And a God seed can only grow into the divine. And I just want you to spend a moment right now. Put your hands somewhere on your body and just feel your body. And really think about this idea. I have been seeded with the unending perfection, wisdom, beauty, grace of the holy. I have been seeded with that. And it's here. I can touch it. I can feel it. And maybe take a few breaths and notice where you feel it. Maybe take a few breaths and notice what your thoughts are doing. Are they running a loop on doubt? Are they running a loop on, psh, not my body? This has been taught, that this spark of the divine, the seed of God, since the beginning of any ancient spiritual teaching, this idea is there. Whether it's the lotus growing from the mud, whether it's the Atman, the holy self, the bodhisattva. This idea is as old as we are. But I think we have become further and further removed from this reality, especially in American culture. We've been removed, very on purpose, by design, from this concept that not only is this divinity an idea, a theology, a cosmology, but that there is a way for you and I to find the truth, to feel it, to prove it for ourselves. And we do that through our practices. I want to share with you from my yoga teacher, who I love and adore, Avery, sent out in their newsletter this week this really, really gorgeous teaching. And one of the things they said was, when you take time to strengthen your ability to be present and relaxed, being in the body becomes a sanctuary. And so yoga is one of those fabulous possibilities if you have an amazing teacher and you actually approach yoga as its intention, which is as a sacred physical practice to discover divinity. That's the whole point of yoga. To still our bodies and our minds in a way that we can go within and be so present. But part of what Avery was talking about is when we do those kinds of activities, and it could be yoga, it could be dance, it could be weightlifting, it could be clogging, like whatever it is you want to do, you can bring the divine to it, whatever it is. But when you allow yourself to do these activities and become present, fully present, right? Which is the difference between fixing your broken body and nourishing and caring for something sacred. Right? Because you can see it when people are in the gym. I mean, their faces are just squished with, like they're being suffering, and they're just horrible. Instead of like, wow, look at me lifting heavy things and moving in this way, like this amazing opportunity to breathe into these bodies of ours and relax into these bodies of ours with our full presence. Being with whatever is there, whether it's pain, whether it's stiffness, whatever is maybe showing up in these bodies of ours, whether it is incredible strength, whether it is like we're killing it in our cardio today. But when we do that, when we make that a practice of being present in it, of noticing our aliveness in it, noticing how full we are as human beings, that we have these fleshy experiences, that we have emotions, that we have breath, that we have all of these subtle energies that we can tap into and we can be present to, we begin to understand our bodies as sanctuary, as a place where we can rest, as the safe place that I often hear us talking about wanting in our lives, wanting to feel safe, wanting to feel belonging. What if that was available to you in your own body as sanctuary? And this is so important right now, not just because you get to know God in a real, felt, experienced way as your own divinity, but because it builds resilience to meet the struggle of this time. I want you to think about what you've run into. I don't know about you, but I literally had to just take a lifetime out this week with the news going on, with our beloved Juniper being stabbed to death in a laundry room, with Tennessee just acting out. I was like, I'm taking a time out. I gotta just time out. But my time out let me just be present with myself and my own body and recognize the sanctuary that gets to happen here in my own body, in my own being, in my own connection with what I know to be good and right and true, which with practice is what I get to find when I go here and rest here. I get to take this with me everywhere I go. I get to take this sanctuary, this peace, this connectedness, this wisdom to the murders, to the starvation, to the wars. This sanctuary now travels because I choose to get present to the divinity that is right here where I live, and the only place that is with me 100% of the time. Which is why, by design, you and I are being invited to move away from our own wisdom, our own goodness, more and more so, right? Now with AI, we're being told that the soul of ours, our whole self and the best wisdom is outside of us. We're supposed to outsource our knowing to some robot now. By design, my friends, we have been encouraged to lose the one power we have, the one wisdom we have, the one truth we have access to. No fake news in here unless you listen to the inherited programming looping in your mind at times, right? Those negative self-talk tapes. That's fake news. But there is a reality in our bodies that we can have access to 24/7 with practice. We can make a huge priority. We can take it into our arm curls, like, yes, God, thank you. We can take it into the water aerobics class, into the sauna. That sanctuary is available in the flesh. We have been seated. We have been seated, which is one of the core teachings of Christianity, if you actually do a little bit of the research and let go of the institution and come back to the true teaching. This idea, the lotus, the bodhisattva, the Atman, is so important to right now, in this modern day and time, to reclaim. Tending your bodies as sacred is a radical act. It is a spiritual rebellion. And you are worthy of it. Because that's the other thing, right? We are more than our bodies. We are spiritual beings, right? And we are these bodies. And we are spiritual beings. We are immanent and we want to transcend. It is a both and. And when we can get into the practice of holding both, our desire to expand and uplift our consciousness, to vibrate at a higher frequency, to change our lives, to change our experience of these bodies, because what we experience in these bodies shapes our lives. It has always been a both and. It has always been a give and take. It has always been an up and a wide. We root and we reach, right? We transcend and we pull down. I was in a writing class recently where the writing prompt was, I pull down from the stars. It is always a both and. But if we don't get in right relationship with our bodies, if we have accepted the programming and the BS of culture about what we're supposed to look like and how we're supposed to hate ourselves and all the things, if we accept that, we miss half of our spiritual lives. Rumi said, I want to get this right, so give me a moment. The body is the shore on the ocean of being. These bodies of ours are the place where spirit has landed, has arrived, so that it can be experienced and felt. It is one of the most glorious gifts we've been given. So do not believe the hype that something has gone wrong in your beautiful body. Believe the teachers from the beginning of time who have known this truth that you've been seated this whole time. You were born of original goodness. That is the truth. And what happens, those of us who know how to practice a little metaphysics, what happens when we begin to nourish and tend and care for and experience ourselves as good and divine? What happens to our frequency? Anybody? It changes. We become a frequency that is now a co-creator of a reality that we actually want. We want more health and wellness? Imagine this body a sanctuary. Imagine this body as a gift of the divine that has been seeded to blossom into the full glory of God. I guarantee that'll change your frequency and change your experience. But we've got to get willing to be in the practice of accepting this truth and uprooting the weeds, stop running the tapes of fake news, misbelief. In Avery's email that they sent out this week, they said, the fact is, when you practice good yoga, good exercise, good weightlifting, good dance, whatever you want to call it, sincerely and consistently, you automatically shift how you feel in the rest of your life. This is because your attention gets cleansed. I love this idea. And I know that that's true in my own life. When I have a consistent exercise practice, which usually I do before I meditate, before I go sit at my altar, because it cleanses my attention. I would not have called it that until Avery wrote it down this week. But this cleansed attention, gosh, what a skill we could use right now, yes? Ways to cleanse our attention, ways to pull ourselves back from the screens, to pull ourselves back from looping on horror and fear, ways to pull ourselves back from doubt, self-hatred, feeling broken. We can take these physical practices, we can take these exercises into our experience of knowing our divinity. And when we do that, when we simply choose to be present, when we go into the water with the intention of, I want to feel the silky goodness of this water on my skin. I am going to notice the hot air in the sauna sizzling up my nose. I'm going to bring my full attention to this physical experience. And because I do, I cleanse myself of the bullshit. And I return to the one place I can connect to what is good and true. I return to that spark and that seed that is in me, this uncreated light that was planted in me before I ever took form. And I can find it right here in this body. This is the nourishing and the tending that becomes a spiritual rebellion. When you walk with eyes wide open, moving with grace, you get to take this sanctuary into your life. You get to be the sanctuary in your relationships, in your communities, in your city, at your workplace, at the rally, at the march. This is meaningful spiritual work. And I pray that you and I continue to say yes to this work, that you and I make it a priority to celebrate the divinity of the flesh and continue to show up in the world in the ways that we are uniquely needed. And so it is. May you have the courage to interrupt what harms, to tend what nourishes, and to receive the support that is already reaching for you. May you choose to follow love's lead in small ways, in bold ways, in ways that transform you and the world.